Hello, folks. This is June 5th, 2018. This is the regularly scheduled SIG cluster lifecycle meeting. And we have a pretty light agenda list here, so folks could fill in who is attending. And if you have an agenda item, please feel free to add it to the backlog. I think the big one for today is freezes today. We have to get folks, and if there are any more remaining PRs, they need to be LGTM'd by the, I think it's end of business today, Pacific time. Is that right?
Do they also need approved from, can you hear me? Do they also need approved for milestones set by the end of today too? Is that
Yeah, they need the entire jiggery to get into the release. So that includes approved for milestone. It's got to have a priority. It's got to have a kind of whatever it is. And it has to have an owner, owning SIG associated with it. I did see that, there's one well-known PR that we have, which is the last change with regards to the kubelet configuration modifications for this cycle. I know Lucas is working on them right now. He said to this meeting because he's working on that stuff. That is probably the most important one that I'm aware of that needs to get in. I did see another one which was an update recently fly through to make modifications to the default image repository for core DNS. There's two separate PRs. Are the core DNS folks on this call? No one? I might reach out to them then and try and talk about why they want to change it at the 11th hour, other than put it to GCRIO. I know that was part of it, but there are two separate PRs here, so I'll have to follow up with that one.
Yeah, the author of the first PR is not responding, so someone sent the second one to try and get it in before the freeze. Mm-hmm. And it looks like it may be repointing it, but it's also parameterizing it so that you can presumably override it too.
I think I missed the first context, but I'll look at the PRs, I guess. So the GCR.io change is something we really should get in. Anyway, using that registry. I talked to Tim Hawking yesterday via email on that actually being pushed in a correct manner, including all the manifest lists and stuff.
Yeah, this has been a conversation that Tim has. I poked him on the original issue. Somebody needs to drive. Only a Googler can drive the images to get pushed into GCR.io.
Have the core DNS ones been pushed?
Yeah, they have. Yes. I verified yesterday. So Kate's GCR.io/core DNS is working, but so. Is there some other changes that try to go in with this as well, or
just the parameterization of image override? I just saw it this morning, so this is the only new one that that's on my radar. The only other one is the push that you're working on, Lucas, to fix up the final integration piece for the kubelet configuration.
Yeah. So. Are we going to do the read-only change as well? Or
which read-only change?
So the first one you have linked there, drop capabilities of core DNS container running red.
No, that was not on my radar to do. That was a link that somebody else put in there.
Okay.
Yeah. So I dropped those two links in there as I was looking through my PR dashboard this morning.
So the first one, sorry, we're doing a group debugging session.
All LGTMs.
They're both override the same thing. They're both. I don't know why there's two that kind of do nearly.
Well, the second two links are the same thing.
Yeah. So can we just? Different. can we just say that, as we know, Ryan is responding. He's been active on Slack as well. So can we just LGTM that one?
This one?
And yeah, this one. And then close the one that is similar, that is a week old or something.
It's like weeks old, but yes.
Yeah. Like anyway, so just so we get the GCR IO change merged today, I can happily LGTM the.
Okay. Why don't you fill out the deets here, and I'll just say closing in preference for 64775. We can do this.
I just closed it, Tim.
Okay, perfect.
Great, cool.
Thanks. There we go. And so, but how about the read-only change stuff? You know, I mean, I think that is kind of sensible. The first one, which is 64473.
64473.
First PR there.
Oh.
Yeah, that one. I think that's sensible. If it works for, I mean, that should be.
That seems fine to me.
Yeah, that should be very fine when we're planning that core DNS is going GA, and we have test coverage on this. As it's the same thing as people do in the official manifest. I think it should be very okay to let through, and then we have a fairly secure by default DNS plugin we're shipping in 1.11. Cool. So I'm thinking about splitting up my PR in a few, just to get different release notes. Just make one for just the dev changes. If we pull up the, I can paste the PR
this
there.
one. It's right here.
Yeah.
64624.
Yeah. So I'm thinking I'm gonna right after this meeting, I'm gonna do only the dev changes, send that as a PR with an action required release note for people that depend on that have packaged things themselves or whatever. Keep this for the kubedem upgrade node and other phases commands, and then upload the CRI socket patch as a different. That is the only thing I haven't coded still, which is.
So split this into. Let me regurgitate what you said. Split this into two. First one will be the release note that you'll be a breaking change of some kind or change.
Action required.
Yeah.
And then this add kubedem upgrade node config along with fixing some bugs, and then the last one is uploading CRI socket as an annotation.
Sure.
So that's the plan. Then we can have a little bit more fine-grained control of the release notes. So that's all good. Let's see if we have anything else. Can we pull up the milestone? So we have the test grid still. So we need to go and talk to the testing team about what Basil prefixes to use and whatnot. If you pull up the test grid, you'll see what I'm talking about. Testgrid.kates.io.
Which SIG cluster lifecycle? It's not in release blocking because the release people would have talked to us.
I think it is. Apparently not. Anyway, if you look at GC kubadmin 110, 111, CI GC 111, and upgrade 110, 111, they fail on some like can't start because some Bazel let me see if I find the actual. So there's something like with the testing for it can't find the artifacts because something has changed from earlier versions. Yeah. If you go to CI GC kubadmin 111 and click on the red box,
CI. Do you have? Can you send a link in Slack? There's so many different tests in test grid.
There we go. So if you go to that tab and click the red button, there's an error that it can't find the latest Bazel txt something. So there's something like with the test infra that has changed from earlier versions. Yeah. So we need to fix that so our test actually starts running on the release 111 branch. The same goes for the others. So somebody's gotta just talk to the release to the testing team. What is the like conventional paths to find the latest Bazel builds now? Ben the Elder and YXDI is yeah, they're all there.
I'm just wondering why there is a discrepancy between, this is in SIG cluster lifecycle, CIGCE QBDM 111, and there's, I don't see.
Yeah, there. Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right, I'll talk with him today. I can put that in my radar to do.
Yeah, just like cool. And what else? Yeah, there's this DXU has this PR for ED testing, which I really hope can merge.
That's the security one, right?
Yeah, that's the security one.
That's out of our hands. That's Tim Allclair needs to approve that one.
Yeah, I know, but I just said I'm gonna talk to him and hope he can, because D has been fixing all the comments 3 or 4 rounds now, so it really should be able to. We should be able to get it in, so we can have a bit more coverage in our testing, which is good. I'm gonna paste that if somebody already didn't do it. There we go. ED testing the kubelet secure features.
I don't think it's a blocker for this release, but it'd be nice to have. This is a blocker.
Yeah. Need to get the right conventions in place for the test infrastructure.
Lucas, I had one question about your pull request. Who's on the hook to review that? And are they available and ready? Tim is? Okay. It's one of your top priorities today, I assume. Needs to get in.
He said he was going to try to get it done in time, so he did one pass yesterday as well. And from what I understood, he's going to do one more today, and hopefully it's now mergeable. And if nothing else, he said we can do it as a backport, like adding more coverage later. But and all. Yeah.
I generally want to start to apply policy, but we'll deal with that later. Like about what is backportable and what is not, because we've been pretty loose with policy, and I think we should start to tighten that up, just so that we're not kind of randomly backporting things which overlap between, like, what things are okay, because otherwise we could potentially backport half of 111, right? So that we're into this weird state where, like, we should have policy. And other SIGs, like, it was very strict, right? Like, we only backport P0 critical blocking bugs. That is the only thing you backport. And, like, as an ex-Red Hatter, that is core to mantra, right? Like, that is what you do. You never backport anything that isn't P0 critical thing.
Yeah, I don't know if you did a cherry pick tracking issue in 110, but I tried to do that in 1.9 and earlier releases.
Yeah, but like that's the problem. Like we release, like, this is a fundamental problem where we keep on doing these things, and they're not the good things to do and sustainable things to do in the long haul. We've done them for history, but they won't help us in the future. So
I meant the central place to discuss what to backport. Like, if it's like recorded in GitHub. So let's say we have 5 PRs we potentially could backport, and at least 3 of them are P0 or critical urgent. Then we discuss the other 2. Is it in or is it out?
Sure.
That we have, like, the centralized place where we do the discussion, so it's not lost in Slack. That was what I meant.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Cool. Then what else? I'm gonna look at. Do we have an update on docs?
No, we're gonna do our doc sprint tomorrow. Remember, so, like, after the freeze, we're gonna go through the backlog that we currently have. We have an updated tracking issue, and I know Lubomir, who's on the call, put all the details in there, but we still need to suss through some of the details of what's currently in our repository and just clean house. There's a bunch of restructuring that kind of needs to be done, and some of the other things are not even detailed. Like, we don't even have, like, I was talking with Liz this morning, but instead of generating good portions of our docs, I think it would make a lot more sense, especially around config, to have better Go doc examples. So if we're going to reference config from sort of facts, I don't want to have, like, an entire config structure blown out for a given version of V1 Alpha 1 into our docs. I'd much rather have it reference a Go doc with the example listing that's there about how to do, like, arg overrides for this release cycle for certain features.
Yeah, so I've been volunteering to write the following. Let's see. So one thing I really want to get in place, like, after code freeze. So I'll be traveling most of the rest of the week, like on doing the meetup in Helsinki tomorrow, and then going to a small conference in France later this week. But to the extent I'm available, I'm gonna try to update or rebase the docs onus PR. I don't know what to call it. So anyway, we need to get better automation around approval for the docs repo. I noticed that there's a couple of docs that belong to us that doesn't have C+ lifecycle as owners. So you need top level approval if you're going to do something. So I opened a PR to fix that, but it got stalled on other top level approvals for changing the owners files to the point it was about to be rebased. So that is something we need to, or I need to rebase now as soon as possible, and we can get in from the docs owners. So we actually can merge our own stuff. Otherwise, we will have to wait for top-level approval every time we change a sentence in the kubeadm specific docs.
So we also have Jennifer on the hook. I don't know if she's on the call right now from the Heptio side, who is a top level docs approver to get our stuff into place. So if there's any question about who to assign Jennifer as part of it, and we can try and get these things rolling.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah, it was. So yeah, I'm gonna do the. Can you open the issue there on the screen with the higher level topics? I can paste the.
If you have the link.
Based on user stories. So in preparation for tomorrow, can we find a couple of owners for the last bits there? So I'm going to do the packaging kubeadm, securing and configuring the kubelets. Then we have a couple of. I'm going to do the upgrading your version 1 alpha configuration to version 1 alpha 2. And then we also should do something like generally refreshing our docs. Can we find an owner for that?
That's part of that. That's part of the doc sprint, right? Like we're going to do that tomorrow. So what I want to do is get a breakdown. I walked through all of our docs, and I can't honestly say I understand the documentation structure. Like there are pieces that make sense, like the setup portion that's there, but there's also a separate cluster administration which is down in a separate, total different location, which has pieces that I don't understand why they're separate.
Yeah, and you can add myself to the last topic there. Yeah, that one. Cool.
So do you guys think that we should move the milestone to 1.12 for this particular issue?
No, we're going to try to get as much in as possible for 111 on this. If something misses, we can open a new, this is the higher level stories we need for 112, and continually during the cycle work on those. Does that sound good?
Okay.
That seems reasonable. There's a bunch of other things too that we need to, our current backlog actually has a bunch of sub elements underneath there.
Yeah.
So like, there's just a ton. Most of this is documentation.
Yeah, it is.
So the core DNS, which is a feature, the documentation about it is already submitted, and all the new commands are also submitted as PRs.
Okay, and they're all blocking against that main tracking issue. I think the one thing we need to make sure we do is anything that's blocking for 111, after talking with the docs folks, needs to reference that tracking issue. So that way it doesn't get auto-merged as part of the release. And they have a single choke point to understand what are all the kubeadm specific things for the 111 release cycle. And that's the one that Lubomir has been curating so far.
So Lubomir, have you been writing the docs for the new commands, you said, or?
Yeah, I'm basically encoding the generated markdown files. That's pretty much what you have to do for the new commands. There is nothing else. So I'm submitting separate PRs for those, and we are just like waiting on approval from the website maintainers.
Okay, yeah, I see. So so this release 111 branch, it's already set up and ready to go to actually merge things into, right?
Yeah, so that's the website release branch you're talking about.
Yeah, so is it possible at this time to merge stuff into the release 111 branch in the docs?
I don't know. That's a docs person question.
Yeah, I think we should talk with Jennifer tomorrow because they have some problems with the release branch, and there's a need for constant rebases all the time. And I really think we should talk with Jennifer about this.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay.
I'm just going to eliminate some other things that are there.
Anything else we can try to burn down? Yeah, so the hostname override stuff, which could be kind of, I don't know if it's a feature or bug fix actually.
For the kubelet, the one that Liz is doing, or for the?
Yeah, for the kubelet.
It's useful. It's a common problem.
So yeah, but that relates to how are we going to do the proxy stuff that we talked about earlier?
We can't do anything yet because we need we need somebody from SIG Network to own this thing because it's totally out in the wilderness at this point. Unless we try to, the problem is if you touch that, you're going to start to become the maintainer and owner of proxy config. And I think the general sentiment that I've got from talking with other people was that everybody is waiting for mTalfin to finish up as the kubelet configuration before anyone's going to step up and own the other things, the other configuration, component configuration stuff.
Yeah. So, but I was thinking like the general that it can't. Yeah. So I also look forward to the next cycle when when hopefully people are going to step up at this because mTalfin is kind of done. Dynamic kubelet config actually graduated to be done in 1.11, which is nice to see. And it's going to be really easy to enable in kubeadmin. You literally just pass feature gates dynamic kubelet config through, and it's enabled. We mark it in kubeadmin as experimental, but in the kubelet it's automatically enabled by default if you set -- dynamic kubelet dir or dynamic config dir or whatever. So it's like the feature gate is for the kubelets is automatically on, but not in kubeadmin. We like curate this on our own and say we haven't verified that it actually works, so hence it's alpha. Anyway, nobody responded to proxy issue host name issue. So nobody actually responded from SIG Network to this issue where I asked for clarification. I don't know. So are we gonna so what kind of how are we gonna solve that people do use hostname overrides, but the proxy doesn't detect it? Are we gonna do the init container, or are we gonna do the component configuration override flag stuff that we talked about with Andy? Or
for this release?
Yeah. Or are we just gonna do it as like a known issue?
I think it's a known issue with two workarounds that I can think of. We actually have a crib that people can copy. I don't like it at all if they need to do the override name. Perhaps, why don't we talk about this some more and try to get back to it in 1 week and see what we can do, if it's possible to get a bug fix in, because this is kind of almost a breaking feature for people.
I mean, it's what speaks against it is that it has kind of never been working, as far as I can tell. Or has it been able to detect hostname overrides before the proxy?
Well, it usually had, in the past, there was config flag overrides, and those config flag overrides did work that I'm aware of. But
but like when running the proxy in a daemon set, you can't really anyway, or maybe you can do it via the downward API. But I mean,
you can do it via the downward API if you want.
Yeah. So I meant for by default running kubeadm init in a place where you, for example, do a cloud provider that sets a different name than host name. So you have to specify node name. Then it has never worked in default kubeadm setups, right?
That is correct.
Yeah, so that means it's not a regression, however bad it is.
Technically, no. So the getting a fix in will probably have to punt till the next cycle.
I'm afraid so too. But so Liz, I don't know if she's here. Can't see really any people from when sharing the screen, but she asked whether it's documented that. So the hostname override PR she has up. You can actually click on that. That goes to the issue, and then we have the PR linked down somewhere. Yeah. So this is when like feature wise or like behavior wise, this is change in behavior, because it's super straightforward here. But what's happening now when we set hostname override there as a flag to the kubelet is that we actually, with the node name flag in kubeadmin init, they actually dictate what the host name of the kubelet should be, or what the node API object name for the kubelet should be. That is what we dictate with this. Earlier, we have said that, the kubelet detects what it detects anything. It can detect from the environment to use whatever node API object we want. It wants. And then we have to create matching certs. That's why we have, let's generate a cert with the same thing that the kubelet is going to do. So we're like having our node name flag is like, make the stuff I have, or the certs I have, match the order detection of the kubelet. Now it's, with this change, it's, let's dictate what the kubelet node API object should be. Is that kind of clear? So earlier we tried to match things, match order detection. Now we say this is what should be used.
Yeah, this shouldn't go under the flag. We should document it somewhere where there's more space for it, because that's like a lot of detail. We should probably put it in like a section on the kubeadm init, like you proposed on Slack.
So if we get this in, we're gonna add an, I don't know, action required, but I'll release note anyway, because it's a change in behavior. But I guess for most end users, it's a good change in behavior. It's a desired change, as it should have been from in the first place. But anyway, I just want to make it very clear to people what we're doing. So
it's kind of sad that this doesn't flow all the way through to the proxy config too, right?
Yeah, and so ideal when we get this in place, and kubeproxy has correct component configuration, we're going to host the proxy. So we can dictate with kubed init and join. This is what the node name should be. Then the kubelet picks that up from the flag. Then the kubelet registers a node API object with that name. Then the proxy is running a daemon set, which gets the desired node API object name from the downward API automatically. So that's like the golden story, I guess. Then we have the edge case with the cloud providers. So in the PR I linked here, if you go to the comments, Legit has a PR, Jordan, that is documenting the relation between hostname override and the kubelet, the cloud provider flags, which is, and this is specifically about in-tree cloud providers. It's different from out-of-tree cloud providers. But what it says here is if we specify cloud provider, which is basically means in-tree cloud providers like AWS. AWS is the big, like, not issue, but like the big provider that makes this confusing for a lot of people because it's really non-obvious. So if you, even though we set hostname override, it's not going to have any effect if we also set cloud provider AWS.
That's not entirely true, unless that behavior is just recently changed with 1.11.
So is the AWS provider going to respect hostname override?
So right now with the AWS cloud provider, at least with version 110 and below, you need to actually specify hostname override explicitly to the fully qualified internal DNS name for that instance. Because the hostname that you get from hostname only gives you the short host name, which doesn't match up with the private DNS name, which is what's used to look up via the API object.
Yeah, so let's say you're using the cloud provider and you set hostname override to something really random, like test, nothing else. Is it actually going to register node name test?
It will attempt to, but then it'll fail to actually start it up. So it's complicated because you, right now, today, to run on AWS with the cloud provider set, you have to set hostname override on the kubelet unless you update the hostname in advance on that instance. And then you also have to do that the same way on the on kube proxy as well.
Yeah, and that's what I said earlier about we have like a workaround that we can point people at, but it is not pretty.
No, yeah. I think I saw it somewhere, like the init container.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but we can update that to using the hostname override config option instead.
Yeah, but that is not done. So that's kind of a, well.
So that's where it gets tricky. Maybe the other cloud providers don't have that issue, but with the AWS cloud provider, that's the trouble spot right now, because by default, if you spin up just a default AMI and then you don't set hostname override, you're going to run into issues.
Okay.
Like you can't even finish kubeadm init if you don't set hostname override right now.
And why isn't the cloud provider able to do that automatically?
That I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that we had the cloud provider override the hostname override if you set cloud provider AWS.
That is my
yeah, that was, which is actually the problem when we split that out, but I think that is still the case today, as far as I know.
Let's just go and check the code. I have it.
So recently, when I was updating our Heptio AWS Quick Start, I did try removing our use of hostname override, and I was not able to even get through a kubeadm init without it, because it attempts the API lookup based on the host name of the instance from the host name or from the proc file system, and then queries that against the private DNS of the DNS name of the instance.
Sorry, and that was kubelet and with cloud provider AWS, or was it kubeproxy?
That was the kubelet. Kubeproxy has the same behavior, but that's.
Yeah, I'm just trying to narrow it down to one at a time, right? And then cloud provider AWS or cloud provider external?
Cloud provider AWS.
Okay, that's interesting.
So we have node name. So, but when you tried this, did you pass dash node name to the internal full qualified?
I tried removing the node name, and I tried removing host name override to try to get the default.
Like what I thought would work is setting node name, but not host name override. I thought or think that should work, but I haven't tried it myself, so I really can't say.
I'm trying to think if I did try just overriding the node name without host name override, and I do not actually remember.
Oh.
Well, actually, I am not sure that would actually work because, well, that might work. Can you actually override the node name with the cloud provider? That might be the difficult thing.
Okay, so what's
because
in the
part of the kubelet? Doesn't it query based on the instance ID to get the node name from the cloud provider? So I don't think you can even override the node name when cloud provider is enabled.
Yeah, so I'm reading the code here, and so the first, actually I could share my screen. Just temporarily. So we get this. Just want to get it right when and if we do this for kubeadmin to ease the pain for these kinds of users. What is tricky? So this is the new kubelet function. Host name. This function looks like this. So if you passed host name override, it's going to use that. If you didn't, check OS host name. And as Liz pointed out, it's going to lower this string unconditionally. That is the first thing that happens. Then when we have either the host name override if passed or the OS host name, we're going to check if cloud is specified. This is for specifically in-tree cloud providers. If an in-tree cloud provider is being used, it's going to query the cloud provider and override here. So if we have let's say we pass both hostname override and the cloud provider AWS, it's first going to run this, but it's going to be overridden anyway with the AWS, what AWS thinks is true, or whatever other in-tree cloud provider that exists. That is what's documented in that PR. But yeah, this makes it really tricky because we have two cases. One, I'm in a bare metal environment. I want to override the node API object name I have. I pass kubeadm init node name, and I want that to flow down to the kubelet. Then list patch is great because that is going to happen. But in the other case, we have, okay, I'm in an AWS environment. I want to make the, I just want the stuff to work. Then currently what you have to do is to pass kubedem init -- node name to be the fully qualified domain name. That should work, because AWS will register here with the fully qualified domain name, the node, and kubedem init will also, with this information, it will also generate a matching certificate. So then it should work. But yeah, I mean, those are kind of, because if we do
there's another more general issue where there's a lot of assumptions made that the node name is also the host name and is a FQDN in general.
That is why we have this problem. I hope we've actually got rid of all of those. Like, we did a lot of work in 1.3-ish to try to use the host addresses. That was the way everyone wanted to fix the problem, but we couldn't fix it that way, so we did it this way. Well,
and I'm saying there's still some of those assumptions left around. Like, that's the whole reason for needing to override it for a kubeproxy. Well, and kubeproxy tries to get the host name because there's no connection for it to know what the kubelet node name is supposed to be and how to associate that to what address to whitelist for things like node ports.
Yeah. When thinking more about this, I think list patch is good, because it's going to actually fix both cases. So even though we're in a bare metal environment, passing node name is going to have the desired effect. It's both going to affect the cert and the node API object. When on AWS, you still have to do the same thing. You do kubedem init, node name, and the fully qualified domain name, which is going to generate a cert with the fully qualified domain name, and also pass hostname override to the kubelet. The hostname override to the kubelet when using the AWS cloud provider is going to be ignored, but it's anyway going to match as a in-tree cloud provider. AWS cloud provider is going to also do the fully qualified domain name. That said, I think when we now get list patch in, we should also do a push to document that behavior better.
It'll work fine for the kubelet, but the proxy is still hosted.
Yeah. The proxy is an entirely entirely other portion of work. But I think doing this in the first place is a good start. Should we print a warning of some kind every time you're using the node name flag?
I think
that you might get a broken proxy.
I think it's prudent, and we can even point to the issue if we wanted to.
Yeah. Okay. So does that make sense to everybody else at this point? Let's do make node name -- node name information flow down to the kubelet locally with regards to hostname override. Document this change in behavior, so now we dictate what the kubelet should use, not dictate in all cases, but in 3 cloud providers. And then the proxy is a separate discussion, which we're basically depending on a bunch of other people to fix.
Would this use the environment file to get that information down to the kubelet?
Yes.
Okay.
Anything?
I mean, if you or Liz prepare a little write-up of this particular issue, I can submit the PR to the website myself. But I have to admit that I'm kind of confused by the situation here.
Yeah, it's definitely confusing. I mean, if nothing else, what really shows it's confusing is that we have to pull up the code to actually know what's going on. Tim, what do you say?
I was trying to debate whether or not I should say something about why the other things are confusing. Like the kubelet aspect is not terribly confusing. The proxy configuration is terribly confusing to most people, and why it doesn't work. At least that's my experience.
Okay, let's say that then. And beta policy doc sprint tomorrow. Do we have anything else?
No, I think we just need to get these PRs done. They got to get LGTM'd, I think, by end of business today, Pacific time. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to just man the fences here until that time.
Yeah. I have a couple of hours left to finish up the tests and stuff. So it's LGTMable. But other than that, I don't see any major things that really have to get done.
We can always
like always. There's some, like Chuck has some bug fixes up. Liz has some. In my PR, there's also a couple of bug fixes with regards to kubelet integration, but overall nothing like P0 other than the my last PR. We just discussed Liz hostname override PR. We have a couple of, or a lot of docs to write as well, and then we should package CRI CTL as soon as possible. So we have that. Chuck, do you know we have 5-6 minutes left, but do you want to have some more information like here, high bandwidth, or do you feel like
for packaging track control?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't looked into that one yet, but if that is the highest priority one, if that's higher priority than long term, I can work on that one.
I don't know if it's super high, but like at least we want to get it into our basal build so we can start testing. I can share my screen here and show where to look for the basal stuff. Where is? There we go. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Cool. So build devs build, I think. So again, it's a mess, but we have two completely different packaging systems, which we haven't still consolidated. So we have build go. This is what we use for the official builds, this script. And this is what we use for the EDE scripts. Let's start with doing this first, because that's what's going to make it into the EDEs. So we can have coverage on the EDEs that it's working. And then we'll just make exactly the same change to the Kubernetes release repo. So anyway, we say what debs should be created. We'll add one more. It's going to be pretty similar to Kubernetes CNI. So like CRI tools or whatever I think it's the repo is called CRI tools, so that could make sense.
Yeah.
we're not building a binary, so we can skip that. And then we say Kubernetes CNI. There we go. So ktdeb, CRI tools, some description, version file. I think we can lock that to. Did they do GA version yet? I'm not entirely sure, but if version 1.0.0 isn't released yet, we have to go with the or beta still. So where do we get the stuff from? So we're gonna put into like user bin, maybe just. Then we should have CNI data. CNI, nothing there. It's in one of these.
Okay.
Which I never seem to remember.
That's fine. Is there a way I can test this before, like, or just like running it locally to see?
You're going to create a deb or a tarball that you can actually install locally to verify that. Yeah, a deb or a RPM.
Is there like a Bazel rule I can use to build that, or?
Yes, I think it's. I don't know if it's packages, debs, RPMs, which one it is. I think it's actually debs, package debs, or something like that.
Cool. Yeah, this is no worries. I can figure this out.
Yeah, so it's somewhere here. It's just fetching the release tar.
Yeah.
From Kubernetes CNI. So you're gonna do the same thing, like download from GitHub using this SHA, and then just include it in the deb.
Sounds good.
And yeah, that's the first step. Then we can, and it's similar to the RPMs, which is like in this file.
Mm-hmm.
The CNI. It looks pretty similar. Just saying that. Yeah, so it's this reference I can't seem to find, but if you dig where this reference is referencing GitHub, you're gonna find the similar way to
cool.
to do the CRI tools. And the net outcome is like one new deb file or RPM file that we can use in our EDU testing.
Great.
Cool. That's it for today.
Please use Slack and poke folks to try and get things done if you have any PRs that are in flight. And a reminder too that tomorrow we'll go through and try to break down the details of docs that need to be done. There's a lot. And we might change some of the structure there too, because right now it's kind of doesn't make a lot of sense. So I know that Jennifer is going to come with some history as well of some other things that actually didn't even get transferred over to the new Hugo site. So we got to figure out whether or not it even makes sense for some of that stuff to be maintained.
Cool. Yeah, I'll be I'll be running the meetup in Helsinki at the time of the doc sprint tomorrow, but I'll try to join from a corner while somebody else is speaking for at least like 15 minutes or so. Okay, sounds good. See you all tomorrow or next week.